It's basically why we stop public executions in this country. In 1868, the government changes the law because it realised that that's exactly what's happening, and that people just aren't really heeding the message. In fact, if you think about it, if you've got hundreds of people standing outside there, what better place for a pickpocket to turn up? Go through somebody's pockets. The best you can say, I think, about capital punishment is it cuts down on reoffending.
Well, yes, it definitely does that. But it would also cut down on overcrowding. Nothing at all. Well, yeah, my colleague's going to bring it up.
Country, the trains existed, so people could. Yeah, take a seat, make yourselves comfortable. Now, welcome to reception. I want you to imagine that you are all prisoners. Okay. Imagine that you've just rolled up on one of those vans outside. The first port of call for anybody coming to this prison would have almost certainly been this room. The vast majority of prisoners would have ended up in this room. They would have come through that door just as you have. Sat in here. It's a holding cell. One at a time from here, those prisoners would be processed through the rest of the reception. We'll talk about what that entails in a moment or two. What do you think is going through the heads of the people sat in this room? What do you think they're going to be doing? We'll come to that in a minute.
Some people panic, I guess.
Some might do, yeah. If it's your first time inside, almost certainly. Oh, well, not a bad prison this. I've been here before. It's all right. Food's good. Yeah. Officer Smith on the wing. He's all right. If you've got a problem, talk to him. He's all right. Don't bother Officer Jones. He'll just, he doesn't care. So they might be having those conversations. All prisoners. Vulnerable may not mean what you think it does. It doesn't mean they're weak and defenceless. It doesn't mean that they are people with disabilities. Vulnerable in the prison service context means if you put those prisoners in with these ones and they will end up in general population, those guys will be attacked. Once these guys find out why they are here and who they are, the people that commit crimes against children, for instance,
then they deserve it.
Well, the reality is the prison service has a duty of care for everybody that arrives.
Oh.
Now, to be fair, there is a reason for that. It's not just about, being, a bit soft on people. It's about maintaining order. Prisons have to maintain order. The reality is there are not that many prison officers in a prison. You can't have fights because it could escalate into something much, much bigger. You could end up with a massive riot on your hands. And if you've got 400 men locked up in there, and only 8 prison officers on the wing to look after those 400 men, they are vastly outnumbered. So you need to separate those people out. It's for their protection. It makes the place run more smoothly, okay?
You know what you could do? Just put a few in with them. Let them get on with it.
I'll certainly tell you one story. In fact, I might as well tell you now. You've probably seen just down the road, there are a whole load of roadworks that have been going on. If you were in the town, you know about all these roadworks down there, yeah? Okay, so I had a guy come on one of my tours probably about 3 or 4 months ago now. We were on A-Wing, we were talking about life on the wing, and the rest of the guys were having just a little wander for 5 minutes, so they could look at a few things. This chap just comes up to me and says, I was on this wing. I was here in the 1980s. I remember all the things that you're talking about.
Wow.
And this place changed my life. It really did. Effectively, I was a young man. I got into a series of, I was always in trouble. Got into a punch up outside a pub, out on the streets down in town. Was in here for assault. Spent a period of time in this prison, and it changed his life. When he left prison, he basically dropped the circle of friends that he was always hanging around with and getting in trouble with. He went back to college. He just, started to study a bit harder. Now, he was a contractor. He was working for one of the companies which was out there doing all these road repairs and all this restructuring that they're doing. He employs about 10 guys. He's got his own business, big house, quite successful. And prison, sorted him out. And he'd actually got his son with him. Young lad, about 15, 16, and I can't help but think the message he was trying to convey to his son was, you can do what I'm doing now, or you can do what I did, and this is the consequence of doing what I did. That's my interpretation of that. But he was certainly told me he was very affected by his experience here. Up you get. We've had a little sit down. I'd like to start the tour with a little sit down because there's a lot of walking from this point on. Okay. So you've had your medical, your next port of call is that small room there. You would have sat down with a prison officer. Now that prison officer will be asking you a series of questions. They're obviously going to know why you're here. They're going to know how long you're spending here, but they don't know anything about you, the prisoner, particularly. So ultimately, what do I know about you?
Nothing, I dare say.
What do I know about you?
That I'm a man, and that I'm about this height. Any physical description you could probably actually know. Beyond that, nothing.
I don't know what's going on in your head, do I?
No.
Do I know if it's safe to put these two guys in a cell together?
It's not.
No.
There we go.
Guess the relationship
There
now.
we go.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. You know, you get all sorts of people who are coming to prison, not necessarily from the same backgrounds. You might be rival gang members. Do you support a football team?
You're asking the wrong two men.
Okay, fair enough. But you know, they'll be asking you questions like that. You know, if you put, here we go. That conversation is to find out whether there are going to be any issues in terms of putting two people together. So they ask you questions about race, about religion. They will ask you about football teams, things like that. Any potential flashpoints. You want to prevent problems. And the reality is, because our prisons are overcrowded in this country, you are going to be put in a cell almost certainly with somebody else. There will be people who are on their own, but a lot of prisoners share cells. It was not uncommon for there to be 2 or sometimes even 3 prisoners in a cell on the wing that we're going to go to in a minute. Okay, so you have that conversation. They'll allocate you a cell. Next port of call is this little cubicle here. This is where the search would have taken place. The reality is, if you spend time in a closed prison like this one, you're not taking your personal possessions and your clothing beyond this point. They're going to be taken from you. You're going to be searched. Your clothes will be searched. So you would have gone in there, a prison officer would have watched as you take the top off. They're going to check you to make sure that you've not trying to smuggle anything in. They'll probably run their fingers through your hair, look in your mouth, under your arms, palms of your hands, that kind of thing. They're going to be searching those clothes. Another officer here is going to search those things. He's going to catalogue all these items. Door goes in a box. He's going to lock it in away room. Just through there, you get back when you leave, of course. They're then going to do the same with the bottom half. These days, I'll just give you probably a prison issue t-shirt or something like a little, feel like a hospital gown, you know, just something just comes down to there. And then they're going to take the bottom half. They're going to do the same. They're going to search you. What kinds of things do you think people are trying to smuggle into a prison?
Drugs.
Drugs?
Phone.
Drugs and phones? Top 2 items?
Cigarettes?
Perhaps not so much these days, but
Knives?
certainly in the past. Sorry?
Knives, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the reality is we give you weapons in prison these days, so you don't need to bring your own.
No, I mean sharp objects then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we give you sharp objects in prison.
Get you sharp.
We don't mean to give you weapons, but
You'll see.
prisoners can be creative. Yeah, they have the capacity to make weapons out of the things that they get given. The record, I believe, in a British prison is 5 mobile phones that one gentleman was concealing inside of himself.
One person.
One person, 5 phones, and 2 chargers.
Oh
No.
They didn't have a 3-pin plug on or anything like that. It's just the USB lead, okay? Yeah, that's better, isn't it? Yes. They are not phones that are this size. That would be a touch ambitious. Yeah.
Especially if touch and vibrate.
Yeah.
Is that how big they would be?
Yeah. There's a pound quarter scale, okay? You've got these tiny little phones.
Oh my
It costs about 20 quid on the outside. 20 quid on the outside is worth 200 pounds on the inside. A phone like this, you're talking about thousands of pounds which a drug dealer will be willing to part with for access to a smartphone. Because with a smartphone, they can do pretty much anything. They can carry on working, they can run their business from their cell. They can threaten people who might testify against them. They can transfer money. These are high value items and you do not want these coming in. Containers in people's cells. I thought, where are these coming from? Turns out there was a guy with a drone delivering Chinese food.
No way.
Somebody had ordered. Somebody had ordered. Anyway. Okay, so you're going to be searched. And then there's a next step. Now, the one thing I didn't say right at the start of the tour is I do ask for volunteers on my tour. And when I ask for volunteers, what I really mean is I just pick people. So since you're nearest, I'm picking you.
Nice.
Presumably not when we go to the execution.
Sorry?
Not when we go to the execution.
That depends on how you behave, so really does. Okay, so here we have a piece of technology called the BOSS chair. Now, BOSS stands for You're looking very suspiciously at that. It stands for Body Orifice Searching Scanner or Search System. This was introduced in the 1990s. Effectively, it's a means of finding out what might be on the inside. It's a glorified metal detector. Okay. So that box, inside that box, there would have been a series of sensors, and effectively, when you sit on it, if you've got any metallic items on the inside, you know, a SIM card or a phone or a needle or anything, it was really quite sensitive. That would trigger effectively that piece of kit to warn the prison officer. There's basically a little kind of light up pad that comes with it, so a little light will come on saying whereabouts you have something. So it might be in your legs, it might be, you know, up in your body, it might be in your thighs, whatever it is. Okay. Very good, very sensitive on metallic things. Not much use for soft packet drugs.
No.
But it was what they had. Now these days, if you go to prison, things have moved on. So Wrexham Prison, that prison which is not too far from here, 2,100 men locked up in Wrexham, remember? Modern prison, opened in 2015, 2016. If you go there, you are taken effectively to their nice shiny reception block. You go into a room, you stand inside a metal archway, you get a medical grade body scan from head to toe. This is state of the art technology. If you've got anything inside you, they will see a picture of it on a screen, effectively. So soft packet of drugs, they're going to find that these days. It's very difficult to bring stuff into our prisons once they've been kitted out with this technology. However, there are drugs and mobile phones in all of our prisons because they found other ways to get things in. We've already mentioned, or I've already mentioned, drones. Drones are a way of getting things into prison. Fly things over the wall, drop them in the yard. If you can make an arrangement with somebody on the outside to fly that drone in and drop it at a particular time, you can make sure somebody's there to collect, yeah? So drones can be a problem. How else? How else do you get stuff into prison?
Visitors?
Visitors, yes.
Dodgy prison officers.
Dodgy officers, yes, or people that work in prison. The reality is there are hundreds of civilian staff that work in our prisons. You've got healthcare workers, you've got teachers, you've got social workers, you've got legal aid, you've got contractors that come and fix things. Any one of those people could be. You're planning on taking some drugs and just passing them under the table at visits whilst nobody's looking. Well, before you even get to see, they've searched your bag, whatever you've got on you, you'll walk through a metal detector, and then you're going to meet the sniffer dog. There is an active team of sniffer dogs based at Wrexham Prison, and their job is to stop you bringing stuff in. Labradors, lovely, very friendly looking. He's going to walk all the way around, he's going to sniff you up and down, and if he sits down in front of you and just looks at you, he might, but that's not really what he's doing.
Because he knows he's got something.
He knows you've got something, and he's just going to keep looking at you. He's going to look at his handler over here. He's going to look back at you. He's going to look at his handler again, back at you, and basically every time he looks at this chap, he's effectively communicating that you have something, and you need to be taken away and searched. 40 minutes, 45 minutes to get somebody through here. You're going to get given your prison issue to wear. Nobody's wearing prison issue today, are they? No. Usually these days it's fairly greyish, you know, sort of a grey sweatshirt. Well, actually, you've got kind of a grey sweatshirt. You know, grey tracksuit type trousers.
So let me keep it.
Did they? Oh.
Bonus.
And look, it's got arrows on it.
Has it?
Yeah.
So that, let's get you locked up. Come on. You want to step?
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
I've got a guess.
Allegedly. At this point, we step into the Victorian. You might not know this, but the government did not run our prisons prior to 1877. Most prisons in this country were run and built by your local authorities. It's only in 1877 that that's an act whereby the government takes over direct control. And when they come to this prison, they decide actually some of it is no longer quite up to standard. So they knock a good portion of it down. They knock about 3/4 of it down. Everything beyond this point goes. And this is what they built to replace it. So we're about to step onto a typical Victorian prison wing, okay? Opened this one about 1884. Originally built to house 172 male prisoners, okay? So step onto the wing, and just bear in mind as you do, There are still prisons in this country which have wings exactly like this. Just because this prison closed doesn't mean all Victorian prisons closed. There are still a lot of big Victorian prisons in operation. Manchester, Leeds, Wandsworth, Wormwood Scrubs, they will have wings just like this. About 20,000 people will be sleeping in cells just like this tonight. Okay?
Wow.
So come on in. On this side here, we've set you out some cells which give you a flavour of how things have changed throughout the years. Because we're a relatively small group, I think what I'm going to do is just open one or two of these gates and I'm going to let you in. Might even let you out, who knows?
Yeah, but it's made of wood.
Yeah, these are. It's really just to keep the school children out, okay? Or in. Actually, I've seen small school children slip through the bars. Just have a quick look inside this cell.
Charles Bronson wasn't in here, was he?
No.
No, I was going to say.
No. So look, this is a relatively modern prison cell in terms of the furniture in it. There will be prison cells in this country which will look a little bit like this.
Hard.
Yeah, you get a mattress, don't worry.
Oh, right.
They will give you a mattress, yeah. Look, there's your modern prison issue stuff. Yeah, your modern gear. But look at what the stuff that this guy's got in here. Look, he's got a functioning toilet. Does actually work. A little bit. Look, he's got places to put his stuff, he's got a desk to sit at, he's got some books in here, he's got a TV in here. How do you feel about your prisons having a TV?
Yeah.
Ah, I thought you'd be on the...
No, you know, I've already said that I want all the paedophiles killed. Oh,
in their mind. That's not a bad thing. You don't want people just sat in a room, plotting their escape, plotting their revenge on somebody who's upset them on the wing, thinking about how they're going to attack a prison officer. It's a distraction.
It's also a view to the outside world, so they're less disconnected when they do leave.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. There's that about it. It's going to make them easier to reintroduce back to society. If you've been locked up in a place like this for 20 years, the world will change immeasurably. This will help you keep in touch with that. It's going to make you easier to reintegrate. Brilliant. There is one other thing about it. They pay for it. It's not a free television. The government just doesn't go, here you go, you sit and watch telly until you're done. You have to pay for it. Now, where does the money come from? Because I took your money off you at reception. You work. Ideally, we want you to come out of your cell and work and do something useful. There are lots of jobs to do in prison. Somebody's got to clean that floor, somebody's got to clean the toilets and the shower blocks, somebody's got to cook the food. We've got workshops at the back of the prison. We're going to get you to make stuff that the prison will sell. It's going to bring money in. And while you're doing that...
A-class.
Sorry? There are 4 prison categories. You've got category A, which is where you put your serial killers, your terrorists, your volatile robbers, the worst of the worst. High security. Excuse me. There's 8 or 9 of those prisons around this country. Manchester's one, Wakefield's one, Durham's one.
Where do they have?
Long Martin. Potentially.
But they wouldn't, I mean, what would they do for work? They wouldn't be out.
Yeah.
Not necessarily offside, but within the prison.
I know that,
Yeah.
but
You'd still be able to work, ideally.
Some jobs need to be done.
Same jobs need to be done, there are opportunities, and through these things might come rehabilitation. You can teach people things while they're working. Teach somebody to be a bricklayer, or a welder, or teach them IT. When they get out, they might be able to go on to do something useful on the outside.
Even carpentry.
Carpentry, join us, absolutely. I'll give you some more examples. You've got Cat B, C, B and C, very much the same. They have secure prisons like this. This was category B/C. The only difference between B and C is category B prisoners are those deemed to be people who would like to escape. They have the mental capacity to figure out how to escape, or they have the support network on the outside to enable them to escape. They are more of a risk. Category C prisoners, they're similar, they just lack either the capacity or the means to be bothered to escape. And Cat D prisons, Cat D right at the bottom of the pile, open prison, there is no wall around the outside. You effectively come back at night to be locked up, but you can go out during the day, you can work, you can do something else, as long as you come back. Non-dangerous prisoners. People who refuse to pay their TV licence and get fined, and then refuse to pay the fine, and the judge fines his patients and says, right, off you go. Or people who've done 20 years in a place like this, they're deemed to be safe to release. but you can't release them because they've been so institutionalised that they need to go to a kind of halfway place before they're finally released. So it's about reintroducing them sensibly. Yeah. So that's what relatively modern cells might look like. Okay, as you go back in time, you start to see that things change. So let's take a look at the 1960s. All right.
Quite similar.
Can you go take a look at the 1960s? It's a little bit different.
And then toilet. Got bucket as well. Slopping out. We've dominated, though.
There wouldn't really be a toilet, we just box that one, but there wouldn't be a toilet, there's no basin on the wall.
To be fair, outside of prison in the 1960s, a lot of people didn't have televisions either.
This is when they installed sanitation into the cells, so there wouldn't be toilets,
so
there wouldn't be basins on the wall.
Because I saw that
Until
portable
the
toilet until I
mid-90s.
saw that, but yeah.
Until the mid-90s, that's all you've got, a bucket.
Yeah.
And you might have 3 men in the cell by the late 1980s. Imagine 3 men sharing a bucket.
This is no
Remember
different to
that
us
guy that I told
camping.
you about, the guy who was the contractor on the outside? He was here in the late 80s. The overriding sensation that he got when he walked back on this wing, the overriding memory that came flooding back was the smell. The smell of 400 men in here. And the buckets.
Did you say that it was only built to handle like 170-ish people?
This wing was originally built to house 170 people because the Victorians keep their prisoners very differently. We're going to talk about that in a second. Effectively, separately. They wouldn't dream of putting them in together. There are reasons why they would do that, and I'll tell you what they are in a second. So have a look in that one. You'll see that things are even more basic.
That toilet.
They wouldn't have had that toilet, of course they wouldn't. There would have been a bucket.
There would have been.
Yeah, your Victorians, it was pretty basic, let's be honest. The reason that the Victorians keep their prisoners apart, well, there are multiple reasons actually. Who can I pick on now? Let's pick on... Well, let's pick on you two actually. Let's pick on you two. I know you're not together, but we'll pick on you anyway. You're young, naive and innocent. It's your first time in prison. Hopefully. The worst thing they do is put you in with this one. He's been in and out half his adult life, he knows all the tricks in the book. The Victorians, well, he's going to teach him. Why not the young one? Come back next week, role reversed. The reality is, yeah, they don't want the prisoners learning from one another bad habits. Okay, so that's part of the reason for everyone getting a cell to themselves. That's not the only reason. The Victorians deliberately isolated people effectively to punish you. Here's the major difference between the past and the present. If you're sent to prison today, your punishment is to be deprived of your liberty. You're locked up against your will. If you follow the rules on the inside, and there are rules, of course there are. If you follow the rules, you won't really be punished any further. It won't be easy, it won't be nice, but you won't be punished. The Victorians start by taking away your liberty, and then they continue to punish you through the things that they do. Isolation is a punishment. It's going to make you feel very lonely. It's going to make you feel very lonely. You won't have visitors to start with as a Victorian prisoner. You're not allowed them. You're not allowed to write home or receive letters to start with. They are trying to break you. They're then going to continue that with things like the bed. Look, the bed in there, this one, I mean this one's effectively rope nets across a single bed frame. That's all you would have, just those ropes to sleep on. More commonly in this prison, actually, you would just get a single wooden bed with wooden boards all the way across, and there would not be a mattress. You sleep on the wooden boards. It's a punishment. I've been in and out of prison before. Reoffending is nothing new. Punishment on its own doesn't seem to work. That's not the only punishment you get as a Victorian man. Your food is also a punishment. What do you think? I picked on both of you already, haven't I? I picked on you already. What do you think you get for breakfast in a Victorian prison? Bread. Yes, you're going to get some bread. Yeah, bread and gruel. Bread and gruel, pint of gruel, thin, runny, oatmeal-based slop.
Anything like porridge.
Oh, really? What porridge you'd recognise it. So that's your breakfast, yeah. He's going to come back, the prison officer's going to come back with your lunch, because in a Victorian prison they were bringing food to the door. What do you think you get for lunch?
Probably get the Same.
No, you don't.
Get nothing.
No, you don't. You get something. Bread, yes. Just bread. Must be bread. Lovely. He's going to come back with your evening meal. What do you think is for your evening meal? Now, bearing in mind, Victorians, they've had you out of that cell to do things, hard labour, physical exercise, religious instruction, all compulsory. So if you're tired and hungry by the time you bring to your evening meal, what's your evening meal?
Hot bowl of soup?
Hot bowl of soup, isn't it?
No. It's not bread again.
Yes, it is. There's some bread.
Oh.
There's something else.
Something
Is
else.
it more gruel?
It is more cruel. This is a punishment. It's designed to make you think it's horrible here. Now, after 3 weeks, they're going to have to change that because they're not trying to starve these people to death. They actually were concerned with their health. But it is meant to set an example. After 3 weeks, they will start to bring you some soups and some potatoes and cabbage and turnips and seasonal veg, yeah. Rice if they haven't got potatoes. Not a lot. Not going to spoil you. Buckets in these cells for toilets up until the 1990s. I want you to imagine a scenario, late 1980s, where you've got 3 men in a cell. We've got this guy, we've got this guy, and we've got this guy. Just imagine that for a second. Those 3 men in a cell all night. The bucket is full in the morning. Whose job is it to empty the bucket?
Shotgun first.
Sorry?
That's the shotgun going first. I want to use it first.
It's whoever gets forced to do it, I'd imagine.
Almost certainly, yeah. I mean, maybe that's comes to some democratic arrangement. You know, you do Mondays, I'll do Tuesdays. I don't know.
I think it'd be you, Carl. I think you get pushed around like these two.
Yeah. That's where I was going with this. Yeah, it's going to be you. So I want you to imagine you've got a bucket. I'd like you to hold the bucket out like that. Okay? We are now going to reenact this because you are going to do what prisoners would have done in this prison up until the 1990s, which is slop out. So, first thing in the morning, these doors are going to be unlocked. Slop out with a call, and you're going to bring your bucket out, and you're going to go down to a room just down there to slop out. So I'd like you to lead us just down there to a room on the right hand side. We're all going to walk carefully behind you. And if you spill any, my colleague Malcolm over there will be very upset, but not as upset as this guy, because this guy cleaned the floor here yesterday. He was the prisoner that cleaned the floor. You're going to this room here. Don't take it to the servery, they don't want him there. So you go in there and you would empty your bucket. Now, prior to 1995, there were no showers in here. They get fitted later. So all you would have had in there are a series of flushing toilets at the back and a series of drains and some sinks. So just empty your bucket into this white sink here. Just pretend it's a drain in the floor. Okay? So you're going to empty your bucket. Okay. Now you're going to want to rinse it out. Don't take it back to the cell dirty. There we go. Just pop your bucket down on the floor for me. There we go. This is also the room where you come for your wash in the morning. So the prisoners are going to be washing in there as well. So there's some sinks in there. So I'd like you to pretend to have a wash in the sink. It's just a face wash. No shower, remember? There we go. Excellent. Brush your teeth as well, please, because this is where you're brushing your teeth. There we go. Lovely. Now, I think I know the answer to the next question. Do you want to shave this morning?
Not particularly, but I'm pretty sure the
No, looking at that fine beard, I didn't think you would. Had you wanted to shave, the officer would have given you a razor. He would have watched you have your shave, and then when you finished, you would give me that razor back. Okay, that's what would have happened up until the 1990s. As a prisoner, you don't have to bring a bucket here anymore. That's great, because you've got a toilet in your cell, and you can just go to the loo in front of these guys. There's no privacy in prison. But at least you haven't got to bring a bucket of it. You don't have to come here for a wash either. You've got a basin in there. You don't have to come here to brush your teeth. And you critically don't have to come here anymore to have a shave. Because from this point onwards, we start to issue our prisoners with disposable razors. What could possibly go wrong? Blades! Yeah!
So the razor in the cheek and the blade can be broken off of it.
Absolutely. You can break that. Disposable. You can make something. You can make a weapon out of it. Did you see the little case that's just in the entrance?
Yeah.
There's a little case just by the gift shop. Things that were found in the prison. Basically, plastic toothbrush, melt the end of it, put some razor blades in it, you've got a weapon. Yeah? You can make weapons out of the things you're given in prison. So you'll see there are kettles in there. Prisoners can make themselves a nice cup of tea, coffee. Sounds perfectly reasonable, doesn't it? But what else could you do with a kettle full of boiling water?
Tip it over one of the officers.
Tip it over somebody. Absolutely. Or you can put sugar in it. make something thicker, stickier, higher boiling point, life-changing burns if that gets thrown on you.
Oh, you're effectively making prison-made napalm.
So the point I'm trying to make, I suppose, is that modern prisons are more dangerous in many respects than a Victorian prison. A Victorian prisoners had next to nothing in their cell to make a weapon out of. Their respect for authority was far greater than in a modern prison. You know, they wouldn't have dreamt of attacking a prison officer because there were serious, real-world consequences for your Victorian prisoners who did that kind of thing. They could be beaten, they could be flogged, or ultimately, if they do something bad enough, they could be executed. We have in the 19th century, so there was an ultimate price that could be paid. These days, if you break the rules in prison, you go into segregation. 4 cells that we've got down at the end, effectively you're put in a room on your own. In fact, all the Victorians did as standard. No visitors, no phone calls, no TV, nothing like that. You're just in a room on your own for 23 hours a day. It is a punishment. It's not good to be isolated from people, but it's a little bit less draconian.
How long are they in this?
I do mean gently, because some of them stick, and there is no handle on your side.
Are we going together?
Sure.
Yeah? Go on then. You lot first. This is where I have parental control. Bye!
Kettle's been stolen.
Oh no, I can't come here then. Cool.
We talked about the ghosts yet.
Help! Help!
At night time, we used to put the bolts across.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So if there's been any interference with this, you wouldn't get out because the basic bolts we put across.
Yeah, wow.
It looks like there's like space to hang like.
Oh, there is, isn't there?
Separation curtain or something.
Curtain.
Curtains, that's more 90s.
Yeah.
Before that, this was just bare stuff.
Yeah. Gosh. Oh, very claustrophobic. Yeah.
Claustrophobic,
Oh, yeah.
What other words spring to mind?
Cold.
Cold.
Mm.
Yeah, it's quite cold in it. I mean, the truth is we have no heating in this building now. This would have been heated, even the Victorians heated this place. You'll see in the back of what the cells look, there's one over there, there's a ventilation brick. Underneath us, there is a furnace room. So, 100 odd years ago, the 1880s, when they built this place, they sent a whole load of prisoners down those steps down there into that furnace room, and somebody would be shoveling coal into that furnace 6 months of the year. Heat rises up through the walls, hot air rises up, so it would at least have been heated right from the start. But yeah, not a nice place to be. Of course, not supposed to be nice, is it? It's a prison. And these things are built, they are trying to deter you from coming back by making it bleak and unpleasant. I said that you as a Victorian prisoner would be compelled to leave your cell, and so you would. You'd be brought out into the yards out there. We'll, because it's nice, I think we will go out there and we'll talk about hard labour in a moment or two. More things to talk about here. Look, you've got this netting above us. What do you think this is for? Stop people throwing themselves off, stop people being helped off, landing, or stop heavy objects being chucked. You know, imagine one of those beds being lobbed off. Imagine a bedside cabinet or whatever it is, falling. That is what that netting is there for. The Victorians had exactly the same idea. This is relatively modern. You see these rings all the way along. Victorians had rope nets across here, designed to do the same thing. We've got a series of cells here, 3 cells which were knocked together, and they've turned it into a servery. So let's just have a quick look in the servery. Now this is not the prison's kitchen, okay? So just down the corridor there's another corridor that runs off that way. The prison kitchens are down at the end of that corridor. So that's where the food would have been cooked and prepared by prisoners, under supervision of prison officers, of course. This is the place where that food would have been dispensed to the prisoners. Okay, so they cooked the food down there, brought it down that corridor, brought it into this room, and imagine a series of tables running along here with a kind of hot plate type things over the top, yeah? Behind it, on my side, you've got some prisoners who are going to serve the food, and then the inmates, the people on that wing, they're going to come down from, even up the floors, because there are 4 landings up there, yeah? They come all the way down the stairs, they're going to come in through this door, collect their food from here, out through that door, and then back out to the wing. Chances are they'll take the food back to their cell, sit in front of their television and eat it, won't they? What do you think prisoners eat these days for breakfast? Do you think they get gruel anymore? No, they don't get gruel. What's that?
Baked beans and chopped tomatoes.
Not for breakfast. No, not for breakfast. Maybe toast, cereals. Lots of them are going to have cereals, you know, so your Rice Krispies, your Weetabix, that kind of thing. What about lunch? What do you reckon you're getting for lunch as a prisoner these days?
Sandwiches?
Sandwiches? Yeah. Yeah, the meal deal you get from the supermarket. You know, packet of sandwiches, bottle of water, a bit of fruit, bag of crisps, that kind of thing. That's what a lot of prisoners might have. Evening, you are going to get a cooked meal, so that's where you're going to come here. You're going to pick up your cooked meal now. You'll have ordered that beforehand. You don't come in and you go, oh, okay, shall I have that? Shall I have the fish and chips? Shall I have the curry? Looks good. You don't do any of that. You've chosen your meal already. You come in through that door, you'll be served that meal, and then out you go. They do this as quickly as possible. At one point we had 400 men on this wing.
Thank you.
We're used to doing this, you see.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That is A wing, okay, so that's the larger of the two wings that we're going to look at. We're going to go across to C wing in a moment and take a look in there. So originally, male prisoners in there. Later on, this just becomes general population, so this is where most of our guys are housed, okay. Look, another building at the back, modern building, built in the 1970s, this one. This is a set of buildings where our prisoners would go to do different things. So on the right hand side you've got your sports hall, that would be your sports hall. On the inside there it's just laid out as a basketball court, yeah? Hard floor, they can play indoor games then. In the central portion you had effectively a chapel, a big empty box. The reality is in a modern prison you can follow whatever religion you want, that can force you to do anything. You might think that the Victorians would force you to be a Christian. They would not have done that. They would respect people's religious beliefs. If you were a Muslim and you came to a prison like this in the 19th century, you did not have to go to chapel. However, if you were a Christian, you did. It was compulsory. But in a modern prison, it's just a big empty box. To the left of that, you've got a couple of rooms downstairs, which would have been where you would have gone to see the prisoners here in this place as a visitor. So, if you were visiting Frank and he was in here, you'd have gone into that building there. Frank would have walked out through the door that you've just walked out through, gone straight into that building, turned left. That's where you'd have seen him and sat down with. Okay. Upstairs, that's where the workshops are. So ideally, we're going to get our prisoners out of their cells every day to do something useful. They can earn a little bit of money, about 15 quid a week, something like that. And they're going to need that to rent their television, to pay for their phone calls, to buy other things. You will get 3 meals a day given to you by the state, but beyond that, say you want a packet of biscuits, you've got to buy them. So prisoners do need money. Okay. So our workshops, in a small prison like this, pretty basic stuff. So you might be sewing mail bags, you might be making prison issue uniform for other prisons. That door there, we're going to go into a little yard. We'll briefly talk about what the Victorians would have you doing, because it's not quite so friendly.
Thank you.
I know, it's hard to know where to stand. You want to stand in the sun because it's warm. Welcome to this little yard. This little yard is associated with C Wing, which is just through there. We're going to go in there in a second. Originally, that's where the female prisoners were. Okay. So, ladies, this was your yard. You would have come out here as a Victorian female prisoner to do one of two things. You either come out to exercise, which is compulsory with the Victorian prison. They will make you out of your cell, walk around this yard in silence for an hour. Doesn't matter what the weather's like. Like down there, like today, but imagine it's raining. It's snowing. I'll have you out here. Walking round and round and round in silence. That's one reason you're out. The other reason, mate, you'd be out, ladies, is for hard labour. All prisoners in a Victorian prison work. Here's a major difference between the past and the present. In a modern prison, you don't have to work. So your interests, who we talked about, but in a Victorian prison, there is no choice. They are going to make you work. So ladies, out here in this yard, you would be doing the prison's laundry. Not just for yourselves, there's 170 dirty men in there to wash for. Is that fair, ladies?
No.
No? What's wrong with it? What's wrong with that?
Sexist.
Is it? Yes. It wasn't a matter of sexism particularly, it was because the men would be doing much more physical things on the other side. Not that laundry isn't physical, it would have been in the 19th century, it really would. But breaking rocks, chopping wood, those are harder. That's what the men would be doing on the other side. Or maybe they'd be on the treadwheel. Have you heard of the treadwheel? If you haven't, imagine a giant hamster wheel with the prisoners as the hamsters, making this great big wheel turn round and round and round by walking the wooden boards. And in the case of our prison, that wheel does nothing. It is purely a punishment to grind you down. Or they've got a thing called the crank, which is a wooden box. It's about that sort of height. It stands on a post, bolted to the floor, there's a handle on the side of it. Your job as a prisoner is to wipe the handle around 10,000 times a day. Don't do anything. Some Victorian hard labour was just utterly pointless and designed to crush your spirit and wear you out, probably make you less trouble. Yeah. At least the laundry's useful, though. At least it's useful. Yes. If somebody on the outside is willing to put money into your account, then yeah, prisoners can have an account, they can have a final accountant's account. They can spend up to about 60 times. They're a privileged prison, or enhanced prison. Okay then, ladies, welcome. Welcome to see you. Have you committed a crime prior to 1922, ladies? This is where you found yourself. What's the other difference between this one and that one?
Smaller.
It is smaller. Why is it smaller?
Less criminals are women.
Ladies aren't central.
What she said.
I'm not accepting that. That's possibly true. I'm certainly going to go with the answer that you gave, which is that there are fewer women in prison. There have always been fewer women in prison. We've got 22 cells here. There's 172 originally over there. Out of the 89,000 people currently locked up in our prison system, 95.5% of them are men.
Oh wow.
There are very few women in our prisons. Now, whether it's because they're just... I don't know.
Just clever eye,
Maybe they're smart. It's possible. There are differences though, yeah. Types of crime. Your violent offences by and large are committed by men. Most murderers are men, most sex offenders are men, most bank robbers are men, most terrorists are men. These are things which attract long prison sentences. Women are more likely to be convicted of things like shoplifting, and the reality is if you steal a packet of sandwiches from Marks and Spencer's, you are not going to prison. It is just not worth the state's time and trouble to send you to prison for that.
That's
you have to do.
It's
good to know, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean at the end of the tour, if you go to our restaurant, you can just walk off with the cakes. Okay, it really doesn't mean that. Because actually, we will lock you up for that.
Got plenty in there already.
Yeah. So, there are differences, okay? There really are. For being sent here. I've looked through that, I've just quickly tallied them up. What do you think the three most common offences would be? Around about 1900.
Prostitution.
Prostitution. Now, if we were in Telford, I'd have taken that, but we're not. This is Shrewsbury and it's a lovely town.
killing their husbands because they were beaten.
Killing their husbands? No. There were a couple of murderesses who were here for a very short period of time. Theft, that's more like it. Stealing food. Yeah, stealing, you know, a pork pie, some bacon, maybe a blanket. Yeah, pork pie, pork pie. Absolutely. Relatively trivial stuff. So although I've just told you that today you might get sent to prison for stealing a packet of sandwiches, if you'd done that 100, 150 years ago, there's a very good chance you would have found yourself in prison. With hard labour. Imagine that. Just for stealing pork pie. That's the third most common reason. There are two more common than that. What do you reckon?
Friday night at any time, city.
Yeah. What happens Friday night? Drunk and disorderly was the most common reason. You'd come out of the pub, ladies, a few too many gins.
Wow.
getting a bit leery on the streets, they would have sent you to prison for it. Unless...
Just looking for a pork pie, that's all.
Yeah, you're still stuck on Second most common reason, obscene language on the streets, swearing.
Oh.
Can you imagine if we did that today? We nobody had them.
Yeah.
We'd all be locked up. That was the reality.
I swear.
Yes. That was the reality. Look at it this way. The Victorians were all about giving people short, sharp sentences. It's supposed to be a short, sharp shock to the system. Rip through a window, Victorians would have put you in that wing with the net. Wow. If you're a 2-year-old child and your mother has nobody to pass you off to when she gets sent to prison, you get away with it. The child would be in the cell as well. Women would have given birth in this prison. God. They did. I've seen the records.
I bought 3 of my children.
Do you want to leave us any?
Yeah, have more, have more.
Okay, so up until 1922 it's women. After 1922 it's first used for young offenders. So by the 1920s in this country we certainly decided that young people should not be locked up with the adults, so young offenders were put in here. And then later on this became the wing where we put those vulnerable prisoners. You remember the ones I mentioned right at the start, the ones who can't go in over there? You put them in here. They are separate. Kept apart. That's their little exercise yard, that's their servery, that's where they get their food from. Kept apart. Because they won't necessarily just be people who commit crimes against children. You might have prison officers, police officers, you might have informants and snitches. No doubt they will form their own knowledge. Anyone believe in ghosts? And paranormal? You mentioned ghosts. Yeah. Well, I know you use a volunteer. There are 3 here. Supposed to be. Up there in cell number 3, up on the 2s, there's a female creature comes out of that cell, middle of the night, wafts away down the man goes through that door. We have no idea who the hell she is. She doesn't speak to anybody, doesn't do anything. She's nothing for you to worry about, is what I'm saying. She's not going to bother with you at all. Then there's just a small child sometimes seen sitting on the bottom of the stairs there, crying, sobbing. Maybe crying for its mother, who knows? Nobody knows who that one is either. Nothing to worry about. And then there's the one in cell 10 up there. That's the one to worry about. That's the poltergeist. That's the one who likes to throw things, push people against the railings. So with that in mind, what I want you to do, there's some stairs over there. I'd like you to lead the group up those stairs and then along this landing floor, please. Yeah. And I'm going to go this way. Yes, that's what we're doing next. Now through this door to the execution room. Now I have 2 things to say at this point. Okay. Obviously I'm going to talk about capital punishment. There is a rope hanging in that room. If you're sensitive to any of that, please feel free to step out. We don't want to offend you. Okay? So that's the first thing to say. The second thing to say, I do not need a volunteer.
I'm going to come in, yeah, show me. This is the poltergeist room. No!
They didn't tell you actually that bit, did they?
Execution. Executioner's bed.
Henry was the father. Albert. Are we all in? Yes. Oh, let there be light. Look at that. Okay, so welcome to the execution room. This is the last place, okay, where executions were carried out in our prison. So up until 1868, the gatehouse. That was where people were executed in full with the public outside. The first person hanged in our prison, a guy by the name of John Smith, he was hanged for the crime of stealing 10 handkerchiefs from a shop. Wasn't a murderer. Wasn't a dangerous man. In fact, the vast majority of those executed were not murderers. Only 30 people were executed for the crime of murder. The other 42 hanged for things like stealing handkerchiefs, stealing sheep, stealing cattle, breaking into people's houses, highway robbery, as I mentioned to you on the wing, one guy for attempting to escape the prison. Okay. That was the way things were back in the earliest days of this prison. Certainly around about 1800, there were well over 200 offences for which you might face the death penalty. Most of them related to stealing other people's stuff, if I'm honest. The government believes that, at the time it believed, that this execution in public is going to be a perfect deterrent. It's going to stop people from committing a crime. The reality is that whilst I'm sure it did make some people think about their life choices, the reality is a lot of people start to turn up to watch these things to be entertained. The last public execution in this prison, 1868, he was a murderer, a guy called John Mapp. They took him to the top of the gatehouse there. When he looked out, there were 5,000 people standing out there. 5,000 people, think about that. All along that road. The other side of the railway line, up that embankment up to the castle. You bought your picnic, you're there for the day. There are stalls out there selling food and alcohol to these people. They've been coming in all morning on the train from Wolverhampton and places like that. All the hotels are booked up. It's great for tourism. As I mentioned to you when you're out the front there, it was an opportunity, wasn't it, for people to go through people's pockets and steal stuff. So in the end, the government comes to the conclusion that look, public executions are not serving that purpose that we intended. We're going to do away with those. We're going to carry on executing people if we believe they deserve it. And by the 1860s, we are really just talking about a crime of murder. They've done away with all those lesser crimes. And in our prison, to start with, they set up an execution shed at the back of the site, where that modern building is. There was a small building there where they hanged a few of the people during the 1880s. 1902 was the very last one. Richard Weebley was the last one hanged out there, as far as we know. After that, when the women leave in the 1920s, that wing over there, that means they are free to turn this block into an execution suite. So from the 1920s onwards, we believe this is where these executions took place, and certainly the last few we know for certain took place here. Now, that's the setting. When this room was in use, obviously, it would look a little bit different for a start. This wouldn't be here. It's just to stop idiots like me plunging through that hole into the rubber underneath. Okay? Trust me, I would. Imagine that you've got a wooden trapdoor across there, operated by a big lever to one side. When the executioner pulls this lever, that trapdoor will open, the person standing on it is going to fall into that room beneath. Their fall will be halted by a length of rope, very much like this one. This obviously isn't the original, but it gives you an idea. It's a very simple thing. It's just a hemp rope. There'll be a brass ring on the inside of that slides very easily up and down. Some leather work around there, and it would go up through the ceiling to a big above, okay? It's not going to be tied off the lights. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. That's all it is. Now, the critical thing to get right from the executioner's point of view is the length of that rope. The length of the rope is determined by the weight, primarily, of the prisoner. Heavy bloke, he doesn't need to fall as far as somebody who's really quite light, because they're using your body weight to generate the momentum that when it comes to a sudden stop, it will break your neck. It'll dislocate these vertebrae, and it will sever the spinal cord that runs through and controls the rest of your body. Yeah. So that's all they need to know is your weight, and they can calculate the length of the drop, really. That makes an adjustment for whether you're a big burly guy with lots of musculature. You know, if you're a big muscular guy, they're going to add a few inches just to make sure. If you're very frail, you might even take an inch or two off, just to make sure that bad things don't happen. And one of those bad things could be, if they give you too much rope and you fall through there, it could just decapitate you, just pull you off. The other bad thing that can happen, of course, is if they don't give you enough rope, and it doesn't break your neck and kill you instantly, because if done right, it will kill you instantly and charge you painlessly. But if it doesn't do that, all it will do is choke the prisoner to death as this gets tighter and tighter and tighter under the prisoner's body weight. They don't want to do that. So, the executioner and his assistant come in the day before. There's a room on the other side of that wall where one of them would have spent the night and slept. They come in the day before, they set this up, they test the trapdoor, they make sure everything's in place, and then they retire for the evening. The prisoner traditionally is kept as close to this point as possible. So imagine this as the condemned man's cell. There wouldn't be a window, he can't see this, they're not trying to torture this person. He knows it's in the prison, he knows he faces a death penalty, it's not a surprise when it comes as such. But they'll keep him as close as possible so they can do it as quickly as possible on the day, because what they're trying to do is make this as humane as possible. It's not meant to be torture. Okay? So, your executioner comes in, he's set all of this up, he's retired for the night. First thing in the morning, he's back in this room, any final adjustments he needs to make. And then just before 8 o'clock, a few other people would gather in this room, probably about as many as we are today. So you would have the prison governor, you would have the prison chaplain, you know, the prison medical officer. You'd have probably the High Sheriff for the county, someone from the outside representing the law, who is here to see that this is being carried out properly and the sentence has been carried out. You're then probably going to have maybe 4 prison officers, something like that. And that's about it, really. Other than the executioner. Funny I've chosen you for the executioner, isn't it? And their assistant. There you go. That's all there is. So you guys will be waiting in this room just before 8 o'clock. The door around the corner is going to open, and what happens next happens very quickly. You would have gone into that room with a big leather belt, and you strap the guy's hands behind his back. He's walked out by the prison officers onto the trapdoor. As soon as his feet reach that point, you, the assistant, are probably going to strap his feet together with a leather belt as well. Very quick to put on, a couple of seconds. And as you're doing that, you're reaching into your pocket, you're producing a hood, you're going to put it over the guy's head, so look like a pillowcase. Yeah. Putting it over his head, putting the noose around his neck with that little brass ring sitting just to one side. Everyone's going to step back, and you're going to pull that loop. There are no long conversations. They do this as quickly as possible. 12 seconds is your target time from getting out that door to through that hole.
Wow.
They do it as quickly as possible. He hasn't got time to comprehend what's going on, he hasn't got time to panic. Yeah, that's the sensible thing to do. So the lever's been pulled through, he's gone into the drop room beneath, his neck has been broken instantly, he's died instantly. Traditionally, they would leave that body hanging for a period of time just to make sure all signs of life have passed, up to an hour, effectively. They would then carefully lower this down, and he would be placed on a trolley like that, like our friend down there. And from there, he would be wheeled through to the prison mortuary for an autopsy. That's now a gift shop. That's where you keep it. Now, from there, yes.
During this execution.
Yes. Do away with the death penalty in this country. 1964 were the last executions in our country. 1968 we remove it. Or 1969 actually, we remove it as a free vote in Parliament. They decided we need to do away with death penalty for the crime of murder. And that's the way it is today. There is no death penalty in our country any longer. Now, I'm sure we can debate whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I would just like to throw one thing into the mix. Miscarriages of justice do occur even today, even with DNA in the equation. We know of people who were executed in this country in the 1950s who actually perhaps were not guilty. Well, we know they've been guilty. Timothy Evans is a classic example. Derek Bentley is another person who was executed for something he didn't do. So, on balance, this is just my personal view, I actually think it's probably better we don't have a death penalty, because if you make a mistake, you cannot take that back, at least if you lock somebody up. So that is for something for you guys to debate afterwards, I would suggest. Yeah?
I think there's more chance of there being 100.
I do apologise. This prison was a perfectly good prison in many respects up until they closed it. Thousands of prisoners would have gone through those gates, men and women. Most of them, the vast majority of them, would have left when they were supposed to. I do know of 14 at least who left before they were supposed to. They escaped. So I'm going to tell you about a few escapes just to finish off. There were plenty in the 19th century. You might expect that. Standards might be a bit lower in the 19th century. There was certainly plenty that escaped in the 19th century. There was when they were building A-Wing, there was a prisoner found below scaffolding poles and just went over the wall.
Of course.
There were a couple of guys in the 19th century, and they are the only ones, to my knowledge, who actually escaped their cell and then escaped the block and then got over the perimeter wall. That is really quite uncommon. It's quite difficult to get out of your cell once you're locked in there. Two of them. I'll just tell you about one. William Ravenscroft, 1860s. He's a local naughty boy. At least as a child he is. He's caught scrumping apples when he's young. But by the time he's got to 18, he's moved on to scrumping people's furniture from their houses. Effectively, he's breaking and entering, stealing stuff. He's arrested. He was sent to prison. He's not yet been to court, but he doesn't fancy his chances. So in the middle of the night, he smashed up his Victorian wooden bed. He used the longer lengths to lever bars out the window, shredded the bit of bedding that he'd been given, just a blanket, made himself a makeshift rope, dropped down to the yard. Now you'd think he'd go straight through the wall, wouldn't you? Well, he doesn't. He goes straight for the window just out there in the courtyard, bay window out there to the governor's office, and he breaks back in. Because he thinks the governor must be a wealthy man, he must have something worth stealing, so he breaks into the governor's office. Sadly, he finds nothing worth stealing. He's very upset about this. So we find later on. And at this point he does escape the prison. He goes round the side, somebody's left a whole load of wash barrels out, probably the officers responsible for the women doing the washing. He piles them up against the wall, and over he goes. It takes them 4 months to catch this guy. They finally catch him in Worcester. He's just got married, he's about to start a family. And he spends the next 7 to 10 years in prison. When it's released, as you track him through the census, through the late 19th century, by the time you get to the 1890s, you find he's working as a gamekeeper. He's standing up in court testifying against people that he was caught poaching. So he's gone from being a criminal to working on the right side of the law. So perhaps prison worked for him. But he did actually escape the prison. He was out for 4 months. That's the longest of anyone that's escaped this place. That was the 19th century. You get to the 20th century, just to quickly finish off. 1958, there's a prisoner here called Kenneth Bernard. Now, Kenneth is a car thief. Not a dangerous man, but he's got a 3-year sentence. And middle of the afternoon, one day, he spots an opportunity. It's an opportunity to escape this one. He finds a prison officer's raincoat left unattended. He simply puts it on. Big, long, dark blue coat. Does up the buttons, turns up the collar, and he walked out through the front gate. He stopped him. Appalling. Absolutely appalling. They do catch him a couple of hours later, about a mile outside town, still wearing that coat. They do catch him, bring him back. I'll finish with one more. 1965, a prisoner called Douglas Thomas Jukes. Now, he's thought about this, he has spotted a way out of this prison, because in the 1960s, there's a van coming through that gate. It's bringing all the clean bedding, all the clean laundry. It takes all the dirty stuff away to be washed. I think you know where this is going. He gets into one of those baskets or one of those containers. He's loaded onto the back of the truck, and that truck drove out through the front gate, turned right and away down Hammer Street. Brilliant, he's out. There was, however, a problem with his cunning plan. Where do you think the van goes next?
Another prison.
Another prison, absolutely. It's the Stoke prison, which is a few miles up the road, about 20 miles up the road, because that's where they were doing the laundry.
Yeah.
And although he leaks out the back of the van before it pulls into the prison courtyard, he's caught fairly quickly and he's returned to prison. The moral of the story, all prisoners are caught when they escape. These days, you will receive an additional sentence for escaping prison. You've broken the law, as well as whatever you've got to do beforehand. So most prisoners in a place like this took the view, look, I'm just going to keep my head down and do my time, and leave when I'm supposed to. So that's where I'd like to end the tour. That's my message to you, by the way. You are now free. You can leave whenever you want to. You can stay around for another 3/4 of an hour, have a little wander around, go up onto A Wing, go up to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th landing, have a little wander around, do the 8 by 5 hallway. Because when we lock the gates, it does get seriously difficult to get out. Right. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
I'm still around for questions. If I can take your orange lanyards for you, I'll take that.